Today, hey gentlemen, today, timber industry is still critically important to the health of rural Oregon, but rural Oregon's economy is quite diverse, quite interesting. There are a lot of challenges and there are a lot of opportunities. That's what we're here to talk about now. So, on the end of the table, I have Representative Cliff Bentz from Ontario, Oregon. We already learned where Ontario was this morning from Derek. And next to him is Senator Arnie Roeblen from Coos Bay, and then Mike MacArthur, who is the Executive Director for the Associated Oregon Counties. Thank you. So Cliff, let's start with you. Biggest challenges for rural Oregon right now?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. I think the biggest challenge we have is communicating the needs that we have out in the rural areas with folks in the urban areas. There's an old saying that Portland's a long way from us, but we're not that far from Portland. And somehow we have to say your activities and the things you do in the urban area have a direct and immediate impact on those in the rural area. And that impact many times is extremely negative. So our challenge is to explain as best we can in forums like this what needs to be done to address the impact that so many of the well-meaning things people do in urban areas have on us out in the remote parts of the state.
Will you give me one specific example?
I will probably give you many more than one. But I think what I'll talk about, because I'm so familiar with it, is industrial land. We have some 6 million acres in just one of the 5 counties I represent. So I brought a bill, the purpose of which was to allow the county to determine when we might have industry and to use some of that vast space. I mean, if Boeing wants to come to Malheur County, unlikely, but anyway, you can dream. If Boeing wants to come to Malheur County and needs 1,000 acres, why can't the county step up and make that happen? My bill met great support in the House. It went to the Senate where it died an unpleasant death and untimely death, and a very sad death. And that's because we need to use every asset we've got, and one of them is space, vast amounts of it.
So Senator Roeblen, when we talked earlier, you talked about how much of rural Oregon is a place-based economy. Can you say what you mean?
Yeah, we have been dependent on the natural resources. And for many of us, we continue to look around the vast forests that we have around our area and the way we've taken care of them for the past 10,000 years. The Native Americans in my area, there are actually five if I go into a little bit of Southern Oregon, 5 of the 9 recognized tribes in Oregon. They are place-based. They have a space that they care about, and they've cared about it for 10,000 years. We've been living on the coast for a couple hundred years, and people will say the logging industry did a whole lot of things that were very bad and when they first came in and took those timber away. But the reality is we have more trees growing in Oregon now than we have ever had growing in Oregon. They're overstocked in a lot of places, and we haven't done a very good job of taking care of them. We have to find those things that are important to us. We have a near space research center that happens to be up in Tillamook County, and they like it there because there's not a lot of stuff going on above them, and they can launch their balloons, and so it is a particular space and a particular place that they can do their business. We believe that we can do the kinds of things with our natural resources that make them sustainable and work for the long term. You know, we talk about people coming and visiting us, and tourism will always be a big part of the Oregon coast and rural Oregon. We don't want to change that. Those of us who live there, we chose to live there because we care about the environment. We care about the place we live. We hunt, we fish, we take advantage of the area that we live in, and we want to make sure that Oregonians understand that. One of the things that Cliff was just mentioning about well-intended things, part of the reason that our fishing industry went way down was because well-intentioned scientists and environmentalists decided that the timber industry had messed up our streams and had put too much debris in it, and they needed to remove all of that. When we removed all the debris out of our rivers, all the gravel went down and there was no spawning beds left. If you'd talked to the loggers, who were also the fishermen, they could have told you that the place where salmon spawned was right behind the big fallen tree and all the gravel that got caught there. We need to have conversations with people who have lived there for generations and the rest of Oregon about how we can take care of this place and use it to the best advantage of all Oregonians. When industry was at its height in the 50s and 60s, the education system in Oregon was one of the best in the nation because of all the resources that went from the timber industry into education. We'd like to get back to being able to do some of that.
I love the fact that we have a Republican and a Democrat, both from rural parts of the state, but who really, they sound similar in terms of how they're approaching the issues. I think that is instructive to all of us. So, Mike, you want to contrast? You want to add something else?
Tell a story, if I could.
Tell a story,
So
please.
for 25 years, I was a dryland wheat farmer, otherwise known as a small-time gambling operator. And I raised my son on that farm and taught him to drive tractor and combine. After he graduated from high school, he went to Eugene, he never came back, and now he's something called an urban planner. So we still have natural resources in Oregon. They're a great part of the economy. They're very important, but they take less people. The wheat farms in my part of the country are so mechanized today that it takes a lot fewer people to run them. It's a matter, and the same with the lumber mills, the same with lots of natural resources, and so it's diminished. Our problem is diversity. How are we going to get jobs in the rural parts of the state so we can keep our kids at home? So, Arnie, where did the kids that you worked with at Coos
Yeah,
Bay
I mean,
go to
our greatest export for the last 20 years has been our students, our kids. And as a high school principal, it was interesting for me to watch them. And so one of our exports was been talked about a lot today. Mark Helfrich, the coach of the, was my quarterback for my son's team, and now he's at the University of Oregon, off to Eugene in the Valley. Go our students and our people in Coos Bay, but we have those kids all over the urban parts of this state and the rest of the country.
So let's talk about the opportunities. We're going to hear from the agriculture and food leadership in just a minute. In terms of the economy, one of the things I read in background material was that we really need to find ways to add traded sector jobs in the rural parts of the state. Where are the opportunities that you guys see? Cliff?
Well, there's uncountable opportunities across my district, which is 1/3 of Oregon. Uncountable, but
Your
anytime-
district is 1/3 of Oregon?
Actually, it's 31%. So, just
In terms of land mass?
land mass, right?
Wow.
Uncountable opportunities. It's bigger than West Virginia by 5,000 square miles. So the question is, why aren't we using the immense wealth that is in that area? Why aren't we using it? The sad part about it is we haven't even done an inventory to see what we've got. It's like a new country that's been locked up for 45 years, 50 for a long time. And it would be crazy for us not to start utilizing those resources to help bring us out of poverty. It would be crazy. It's really sad. And the same is true for our timber. We're not using it. When we could be using it for children like Derek Morales, who we just heard speak from Ontario. I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of the program. We need to be doing more of that, and we could be doing it if we would simply recognize and appropriately utilize our resources.
Mike, opportunities?
Well, it seems to me that there's a lot of opportunities in renewable energy in rural Oregon. When I was in Sherman County, I guided the county to 35th place in per capita income. And shortly after that, we had wind development in the county. The county's now first or second in per capita income. The wheat market has gotten a lot better too, but a lot of that has to do with 1,000 megawatts in Sherman County.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for renewable energy around the state in geothermal, wave, solar. But the problem with renewables is that we have to be able to store the power when it's generated. And the dam system has worked pretty well in the Columbia River system to do that, but we're about at capacity now with all the wind, about 7,500 megawatts of wind in the Oregon-Washington system. The good news is there is an opportunity 120 miles from here up the river. Problem is it's in Washington.
Oh.
It's a Klickitat County, has a pumped storage opportunity, best in the United States. The best site in the United States is right up the river. but it would benefit Oregon if that could get built. What it is 2 ponds, one high, one low. When the wind blows and you don't need the extra power, you pump the water up, and when you need the excess power to produce peak power, you let the water out. This project would produce half again as much power as the John Day Dam. It would cost about $2 billion, take 10 years to do, but that's the key to developing renewable energy throughout Oregon, throughout the BPA system, is to have that storage capacity, and that's what I hope we can look at in the business plan to how we can support that kind of a project.
Beautiful. Senator Roebler?
Yeah, and for us, it's looking at what are the natural advantages that we have and taking advantage of them. Coos Bay is the only deep water port on the west coast and in Oregon that can be deepened to take the biggest ships that are now being built for the ocean. So if we want to be an exporter and not sending our products to Seattle, Tacoma, or to Southern California, we need to develop the port for a deep water export, and we need to get ODOT, who has been a great supporter of building roads and taking care of our area, to build a road. Cliff and I put a bill in a few years ago, a road from Coos Bay to Ontario, so that we could start, getting stuff away from the coast and build a transportation system that works. Most of the other states have done that on coastal areas. We haven't made that commitment to recognize that there are certain advantages that we have. We took advantage of NOAA and brought it to Oregon because we all work together, and Oregon tends to work together better than the other states.
So, Representative Benz, what's the win for the whole state if we are able to improve the economy in the rural part of the state?
Well, the win, of course, is that the urban part of the state won't have to keep supporting us, as is now often the case. Horribly unfortunate. The win for the entire state is that poverty isn't just in Ontario or just in John Day or just in Klamath Falls, it's also in Portland. And so we need to use our assets much more wisely than has been the case in the past. We've become complacent, I think, and we're not using what we need to use to save these children from the consequences of poverty, which are long-lasting and sometimes irreversible. So we can't leave our timbers to burn. We can't afford that, if that's a luxury, anymore. And we can't leave our minerals to molder. We have to start using what we've got.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you guys so much. Yes, please. And now